It's an honor to be with you tonight. I've had the pleasure of attending all the CHRV events you've hosted in Toronto and in Ottawa over the last number of years, and I look at your organization and I see an organization that has really made a difference. You know, you are a respected voice on human rights. You have actually played a pivotal role in changing foreign policy in Ottawa on some very substantive issues. And I just thought I'd share a story with you of how I have come close with your organization and how I feel a brotherhood and a sisterhood with many of you. I had a family in Barrie, Ontario. I have one Tamil family in Barrie. More are welcome. But right now we have one family. And in 2009 I had a family come to my constituency office, the Shreshkumar family. And Ranji was crying on my office couch and said to me what was happening in Sri Lanka and how she wanted human rights and justice there. And as she cried, she said to me, what if that was your sister? What if that was your aunt or uncle? And it hit me, and it made me shiver to think of what was happening, because when she spoke of the horrors in Sri Lanka, I started to think, no wonder there's such huge crowds in places like the Garden. No wonder there's such huge crowds in the House of Commons or on University Avenue. Because I do the same if my family was facing such atrocities. And that's when I started to get involved with CHRV, because I saw CHRV to be an organization that would advocate the need for justice to be found. And I know when CHRV had the screening of the Channel 4 documentary, which I think really highlighted the extent of the crimes that occurred in Sri Lanka. When they highlighted that documentary in Ottawa, and I had the pleasure of being there with Rick Dykstra and Paul Klander and other members of our colleagues who hosted that event, we saw that every parliamentarian that saw that video, all of a sudden they got it. They got why this organization was advocating human rights, and they wanted to be involved. And your list of friends and advocates grew by the day on Parliament Hill. But it's because CHRV understood the importance of engaging. To engage in human rights means connecting with the political activists that were discussing it. And there you were, in the Trinidad and Tobago Commonwealth, and Canada was the first country to say we need to look at this because you championed that issue. You know, I had the honor of going to Geneva to talk about what was happening on behalf of the Tamil community when they had the inquiry into human rights abuses. And I realized that it was Canadian Tamils playing such a huge role. It was members of CHRV and other organizations in Canada playing such a significant role. And I think when the Prime Minister finally boycotted the Commonwealth because of unaddressed human rights abuses, you can look at that and say, you contributed to that. Canada became the leader in standing up for human rights abuses on what was happening in Sri Lanka. The leader in the world. The leader in the world because of your activism. So showing up to events like this, supporting an organization like CHRV makes a difference. But I want to say it does not stop here. And the battle for justice, we still have a lot of work to do. I think we highlighted what happened by raising such attention over the Commonwealth. But I think there's next steps to take. And I've been working with colleagues of mine in Ottawa to try to think of what are the next steps to make sure that the pressure remains on a regime that has yet to be accountable for the war crimes that occurred. And I know the world has always looked, global leaders always looked upon fondly when they address a problem. And I think when we look back at Rwanda, we look back at other circumstances, we feel a sense of pride that finally acted, sometimes too late, but we acted. And I look at this situation, I really feel the global community is going to say one day, we were too slow. We acted not fast enough. And that's why it's so important that we keep the pressure up to make sure that other world leaders recognize what Prime Minister Harper has recognized, and that is incredible human rights abuses occurred, and accountability must be found. And I suggest, and the next step I think we need to do, and this is a campaign I've started, we now have, I think, almost 40 MPs who have signed on, that we should say that any official associated with a regime, with a dictatorship in Sri Lanka, should not be welcome to have traveled to Canada, just like we did with the Russian government. I really believe we need to take stance and continue the campaign to raise attention and pressure against a horrible regime. And I know the CHRV will be at the forefront of that battle, because you always have been. Every step of the way in this journey to raise human rights, you have been there. So I'm here today as a supporter, as a believer in CHRV, and for the entire team, Todd, Babu, Stan, everyone involved, I salute you today, and it's an honor to be a supporter of your organization. And I know today is a celebration of CHRV, and I look forward to hearing everyone else's comments, and appreciate Todd giving me a few moments to say a few words.